Good morning. Well, it is here. It's 6 o'clock on Saturday morning, so we're going to head over to a customer now in Ellesmere Port, the one that had the turbo, funnily enough. They've now fitted a new turbo, and we're going to go and see about a fuel pressure fault they've had after they've took it for a road test. So let's get out of here. We're going to start by confirming the customer's concern on this DAF CF Model Year 17 MX-13, but with nothing showing on the dash, we're going to need some diagnostics, and as usual, Eclipse have come to the rescue in the form of Jaltest. With the VCI and the OBD port again, we can get into this diagnostic and identify our fault codes, which will aid us in solving the customer's concern. Auto identification of the VIN number has taken us straight into our various systems, and from here we can hit the main system scan. With the CAN topology displaying what faults we have on the various ECUs, we have no active fault codes, but we do have fault codes specifically in the PCI and EAS ECUs. As you can see in the PCI ECU, we're greeted with fuel pressure sensor data valid but below normal operating range, and power loss from the EAS ECU. With the customer already changing the fuel filter, hand primer filter and the fuel pressure sensor, this fault wasn't going away, so we're going to have to follow the troubleshooting here, as I suspect the power loss on the EAS ECU will be due to the ADR master switch being isolated last night. If we expand this troubleshooting, depending on what the engine does, it alters where we go in the next few steps. So, does the engine start? With the engine starting and the fuel pressure displayed, we can continue with the troubleshooting tree. We have more than 0.2 bar pressure, and I know clearing the fault codes isn't going to fix this, so I best get my thinking cap on. Now, I've got the engine warning going off, which will be from the low fuel pressure upon starting, so we'll get the cab over and we'll physically check what's going on with the low pressure fuel system. A nice new turbo has been fitted here now, but we're working on the cold side of the engine today, specifically around the fuel filter module. I'm just going to grab some new kit I've made up from the van. This is part of my fuel testing kit. This is specifically for the low pressure system with male and female quick release fittings and a glycerine filled gauge that does negative and positive fuel pressure. It can not only check for restrictions such as block filters, but also measure fuel filter pressure over 10 bar, perfect for what we're doing today. Link is in the description if you want to purchase this low pressure fuel gauge. So I'm going to start to check if the fuel tank stack pipe filter or pipework isn't blocked from the fuel tank to the fuel filter module. With the gauge fitted in line, we can see if the system has high negative value. This would be like trying to suck on a straw with your finger over the end, for example. With a near zero reading, this shows me I have no restriction and the fuel is free flowing from the tank to the filter head. No restriction here.
How the fuck did it get all the way over here?
Honestly, these bloody fuel pipe clips grow legs. Alternatively, you could just pull the stack pipe out and physically check the filter. You tell me which was quicker. I'm going to check the fuel filter strainer under the hand primer just to make sure this and the fuel filter have actually been changed. You never know what someone might have damaged, such as an O-ring. It's always the simple tasks that beat the best of us. With the strainer filter not putting up much of a fight and looking crystal clear, I'm more than happy to say that these have been replaced. We best move on to some more system pressure checks. Now, if I wanted to check the lift pump strainer filter for blockage with the low pressure fuel gauge, I'd simply put it on this bottom fitting, as this is the feed from the lift pump. But I'm going to check the output pressure from the lift pump to the fuel filter housing, just in case Jaltest's electrical pressures don't match up with the physical pressure of the gauge. Again, with the test gauge clipped in line and the clip on the fuel pipe, we can start the truck up and check the pressure. We have around about 1 bar of fuel pressure, and in the measurement selection on Jaltest, I set up some simple monitoring data. In the measurement section on Jaltest, I'd set up some simple monitoring data, specifically engine speed and relative fuel pressure. This is to check that it matches up with my low pressure gauge. With the gauge matching Jaltest, the only thing in my head I can think of is poor low pressure fuel pump performance. Why else would it not build pressure? So, one Bosch pump from my stock later. Here is the part number for the same one that DAF supply, but without the price tag. I think changing these lift pumps on MX-11 is easier than on MX-13, but with only 3 bolts, it was soon removed from the power steering pump housing. This looks like an original low pressure fuel pump, which could explain our low fuel pressure. They don't last forever, but it certainly doesn't feel too bad physically. With just the fittings to swap over and an O-ring to fit on the power steering pump output shaft, I can bang this old unit in the vise and swap over the fittings. With my new bolts and O-ring collected, it was out with the old and in with the new. I wasn't concerned about checking pressure with my fuel gauge again, as I know Jaltest is reading correctly, so I got the fuel pipes fitted back onto the pump and primed it up. With the truck sounding like it built up some great pressure, I can head back to Jaltest and check the pressure, which is now worse than ever. Time to clutch at some straws. In an attempt to get to the bottom of this, I've whipped out the fuel pressure control valve, which I've never had an issue with, but I know on American Paccar groups this has caused low pressure issues before. With this looking fine, I got back to my troubleshooting. What could I have missed? Oh no, could it be? So, with my ratchet and socket, off comes the filter head cap. I should have drained down this fuel filter housing so I didn't fill the high pressure pumps with unfiltered fuel, but that's another pipe I need to make. Well, filter's new, and the correct part number. Seal looks fine also. But what is this? I don't bloody believe it. Well, this is a new one for the books. It's a seal from the old filter stuck in the bloody housing. I've made a right mess here with diesel dripping everywhere, so half a tin of brake cleaner should fix it. Moment of truth. With Jaltest now showing me factory perfect fuel pressure and the fault cleared and not coming back on, all I can say is I can't get it right 100% of the time. And yet again, from a diagnostic point of view, it pays to check other people's work. Hindsight is, I should have checked the filter, and so should have the technician who changed it ultimately. So, at what point would you have done things differently? Let me know in the comments. Drop a like if you thought I was a complete idiot, and hopefully I'll catch you in the next one.